You were talking there about Liz Truss not perhaps being the daughter of Thatcher that they're making her out to be. What do you genuinely think is the longevity of Boris Johnson at this point?
Honestly, I can't tell. These things can go on for ages, and events can suddenly bring on disasters. I think it will depend very much on how the polls go and how the Labour Party performs. As I speculated at the weekend that Labour would ultimately reach for the Blair creature again.
Yes.
Having found that Keir Starmer is so much a work of carpentry and so hard to see as an inspiring leader in an election, and they need to make that jump that they made with Blair if they're to get anywhere, especially in southern England, because in Scotland they're almost dead, and they've lost an awful lot of their power and indeed an awful lot of their ability to raise money. So I don't think it's at all out of the question that they might call upon Blair again. And I have to say that looking at him, this glinting billionaire with his strange staring eyes, spending his days and nights apparently delivering lectures to manufacturers of disinfectant. Looking at him, you can't wholly rule out the idea that if the bat phone rang and they said come back, that he wouldn't say yes, I will, and then he'd bring the whole crew with him, Alistair Campbell and the rest of them.
Yeah, get the old band back together.
Well, exactly, and people seem to long for bands to get back together, and there we might well have it. And since the population is so much enthralled to the what we might call the COVID ideology, that they genuinely believe in many cases that government power can save them from this disease, and it's serious enough for that to be justified, and that they, rather than being angry about the fact that they weren't allowed to have Christmas parties last year, they're angry at the fact that the government secretly did have Christmas parties, which is the wrong way round. If the people are in that state of mind, then they're just as crazy as they were in May 1997 when they voted in their millions for New Labour, and this could be this could be the next step. I just thought it was such a horrible nightmare when I had it, that the best thing to do would be to raise it now so that people would begin to think about it and maybe find ways of preventing it. But I think it's impossible. What I think is very possible, with or without Blair, is that we will end up in some kind of Blairite horror when this government finally fails, and that's what will sweep them away. A Liberal Democrat revival, a Labour revival, and of course the cooperation of Nicola Sturgeon's SNP from across the border in return for a pledge of a new referendum at a time that suits them. I do think it's quite possible we might end up with that. And if you look at the current state of the Tory party, it's hard to see them doing anything like as well next time as they did the last time. The only question is who will rush into the gap they leave.
Yes, I mean at the moment they seem to be full of sort of stories of how they can't possibly replace Boris Johnson at the moment because who would you replace him with? There's this kind of almost atrophy within the party. They don't actually want to think about bringing somebody else along, and until such time as you do that, you don't find out how good they are anyway, it seems to me. And they're sort of hiding behind all manner of fig leaves as to why they must keep Boris in place for a bit longer because he's a winner. Well, he wasn't a winner on Thursday, and I know that it was a by-election. I know that strange things can happen, but it was a pretty big defeat. It really was.
But I spent a lot of the 80s covering by-elections. They're festivals of the oppressed in which people feel free to vote in ways they never would at general elections, and it's always unwise to read too much into them. It's if you find other trends taking place that it would become important. Johnson has run the Tory party basically on the Corleone principle that you supported him, and you supported him from the start and quickly and fully, or you were cast into the outer darkness. And that will work as long as people think that he is capable of winning an election. But if deep down figures begin to come in, and if the reports from the constituencies begin to come back saying this is actually costing us, then he'll go. Because whatever the Tory party is or is not, it's extraordinarily ruthless about getting rid of leaders who it thinks are losers. But I don't think that's happened yet. And as I say, knowing what I know about by-elections, it would be premature to say that alone would do it. But all kinds of other things could happen in the new year which could weaken him.
Well, if,
and as I say, if the Labour Party finds a way of projecting itself more effectively than it does now, that could also be a danger.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see the Labour Party winning an election by any way stretch of any imagination that I could think of, or even including your imagination. I do.
It would be very difficult.
Yeah, I do, but I do see a change.
I live in the only Labour constituency, I think, outside London in the south of England, for instance. That's how bad they are in a large part of the country. Yeah. It's a huge struggle for them to overcome that now.
Yeah. But also, I mean, you are part of now what is Labour's constituency, which is the land of the Range Rover and the Waitrose and the the Arga. I mean, that is Labour Party homeland now.
Yeah, and of course the enormously expanded public sector in education and health, in which the new middle class live. Yeah, I know but I don't. Many of those are not necessarily natural Tory voters. They could easily switch to the Liberal Democrats, and many of them have. I don't think the Tory vote is particularly solid.
No, I don't think it is at all. I don't think it's solid in any way, shape or form. But listen, Peter, we're out of time. It's been a pleasure again speaking to you.